breaking news. This is News Channel 5 at 6.
Hi, everyone. That breaking news, a deadly plane crash in Bellevue.
We have live team coverage tonight. We begin with Todd Walker at the scene behind the Bellevue YMCA. Todd.
Yeah, guys, I want you to go ahead and take a look behind me. There is still a huge presence from emergency personnel and first responders out here who are working to put out what was a pretty big blaze when this plane crashed. As recently as a few minutes ago, we were still seeing some smoke come from that airplane. The preliminary information that we have from the FAA is that this was a Gulfstream 609C aircraft, and it was headed to the John C. Toon Airport in Nashville. That aircraft is registered to a company out of Kansas, and that flight apparently departed from Great Bend Municipal Airport out of Great Bend, Kansas. It was headed to the John C. Toon Airport when this crash occurred. It's about 10 miles from the airport. There's no indication right now of what went wrong. We haven't even heard if there's any sort of mayday call yet. But again, this happened right behind the Bellevue YMCA, and we're hearing that there were lots of witnesses. This is a very crowded area. So, of course, that there were a lot of people who did witness this. We're seeing pictures show up on social media. We've been talking to folks who were in the area when it happened. We will bring you their accounts of this as we go on. But again, the investigation into what caused this crash just beginning. Of course, we will bring you as much new information as we can. The FAA is en route here. The NTSB, which will be investigating this crash, they are en route as well, and they will begin what will likely be a fairly lengthy investigation. We are hearing that according to the flight plan, there were 4 people on board. There are conflicting reports how many might have actually been on the plane, but the flight plan said that there were 4 people on board. Again, if we get any more information, we'll be sure to pass it on to you. It appears right now that there are no survivors. There appears to be no one that was taken to the hospital. We will continue to update you on that information as we get it. But for now, live in Bellevue, I'm Todd Walker, News Channel 5 HD.
Todd Walker is still on the scene. Todd, what more can you tell us?
Well, Vicki, you are looking at the wreckage right now, and just a moment ago, firefighters were still putting that fire retardant foam on it because a few minutes before that, we saw the wreckage flame up again. So this scene is far from contained right now. We're going to have investigators working this all night tonight. We just spoke to District Chief George Hickey, who said he's been a firefighter here in Nashville for 38 years. He said this is the worst plane crash he has ever seen. He's worked 3 different plane crashes, and this is by far the worst one. He said that he talked to John Toon Airport, where this plane was expected to be headed to about 10 miles from here. The airport told them that they were expecting 12 people on board. We're told right now there are no survivors. No one was taken to the hospital. So, of course, this is a tough scene. This is something that a lot of people witnessed. We just spoke to a witness who was inside the Bellevue YMCA, which is this plane crashed in the backyard. We just talked to someone who was working out at the YMCA, and here's what they saw when this plane went down.
And so we immediately evacuated everyone. There was still people down, and there was body parts on the ground.
So, of course, this is a grisly scene back there. Firefighters are saying the same thing, and Chief George Hickey was complimenting his crews on how well they handled what is just an awful scene when they arrived. We're told that the wreckage of this plane covers pretty much the entire back side of the yard area behind the YMCA. This is a large scene. It's scattered out quite a ways. What Chief Hickey was telling us is that it appears that this plane, as it was flying in low, made a hard bank to the right before it crashed into the field. So it certainly appeared that he was trying to avoid buildings. This is a very congested area, and so it appears that pilot knew that he was in trouble as he was coming into this area. That was about the only place that he could put this plane down, and it appears that he did a very good job avoiding buildings. What we're told is the only thing that the plane clipped was maybe a branch to a tree as they were coming in. So certainly some heroic work by that pilot as he was coming in. He knew he was in trouble. He knew he was going down, but managed to miss the YMCA, which was packed with people working out after work. No injuries on the inside of the building, no damage to the building at all. So certainly, if there is good news to come out of it, it's that there were less lives lost or less injuries than there had to be, but it appears the 12 people that were expected to be on board did not make it. There are no survivors. We will stay out here throughout the night and bring you any details that we can as we get more updates. For now, we'll send it back to you.
But first, News Channel 5's Todd Walker is live with more on what happened and on the investigation tonight. Todd?
Well, guys, I want you to go ahead and take a look behind me. You can see that the wreckage of that plane is still smoldering all these hours later. Emergency crews are going to keep this scene locked down as the investigation into what exactly happened begins. The FAA was supposed to arrive tonight. The NTSB will be arriving from out of town tomorrow. We don't know what was going on in the cockpit yet. It appears there was no mayday call. The pilot was 10 miles from his destination at John Tune Airport when he went down in just about the only open space in this crowded part of town right at the beginning of rush hour. Nashville firefighters were some of the first people to arrive on scene of the crash Monday night. When they got there, it was clear there would be no survivors, and this would be like nothing they've ever responded to before.
This is something you do tabletop scenarios for. You don't really go to these.
Command, go ahead.
The Gulfstream 690C crashed just feet from the YMCA in Bellevue. Witnesses told first responders it looked like the plane banked to the right just before impact, maybe trying to avoid crashing into the Y.
That tells me the pilot did one hell of a job, protecting lives.
The plane took off from Great Bend, Kansas this afternoon at 2:45. It went through Kansas and across southern Missouri. It was scheduled to land at Nashville's Tune Airport at 4:58. Metro Nashville police say the plane missed its first approach to the airport and was coming around for another attempt when it crashed at 4:57.
When the plane hit, persons from the Y went outside, tried to see if they could help, but the crash was catastrophic.
The plane was registered to Mid-Kansas Agrico in Pawnee, Kansas. 4 people were reported on board. The crash was so gruesome, the remains of those passengers were unrecognizable.
The crash was very hard. The impact was significant into the ground, and the debris field is probably some 50 to 80 yards in circumference.
Police and fire authorities will be here throughout the night and possibly for several days as the investigation begins, keeping the area locked down. No one suspects foul play, but for now, it's being treated as a crime scene. And once again, you're looking live at the wreckage of that plane crash, and you can just see how expansive that wreckage area is. Remains of the 3 of the 4 people believed to have been on board have been recovered. Metro Police, firefighters, all rescue crews are working to find the remains of that 4th person. So far, names have not been released. Live in Bellevue tonight, I'm Todd Walker, News Channel 5 HD.